For most people, your playtime in comparison to your Skyblock level isn't anywhere where it should be. Whether this is because of a lack of game sense or maybe you just AFK a lot, there's normally some reason behind this. Today we'll be going over the best ways to put as much progression into this game while putting as little playtime as possible. Before going into this guide, I would like to ask you guys to subscribe to our channel. We're about to close in on 2,000 subscribers and a sub to the channel would mean a lot. We're trying to go for the YouTube rank and you could always change your mind later, but with that out of the way, let's go into the video. One of the main issues I see people having is they end up just AFKing when they could be doing other things. One thing I would always try to make sure you have is minions constantly placed down. I say this for the reason that a lot of these collections you won't actually end up grinding by hand, and that a majority of them will actually be coming from minions. Looking at a minion like Inferno minions in the Chili Pepper collection, you'll end up having to waste at least like 3 months of just placing them and waiting for them to produce chili peppers, assuming you're using 10 at a time. This could also go for more simpler things like melon minions or fishing minions if you're trying to go for a skill level up. You should never not prioritize your minions in this game, as they always are good for Skyblock XP and they don't really cause any downtime to set them up. Sure, once or twice a month you might have to go interact with them to maybe swap them out for different collections or whatever, but it's not that much time actually wasted and you save a ton. Another thing I would try to say, especially with minions like Inferno minions, is to have the fuel constantly running whilst you're also collecting them on time. Looking at something like Inferno minions, not having fuel in them pretty much makes them useless, and there's no point for you to not put any type of fuel in them. Now this is pretty simple, but I would try to recommend doing as many passive and simple bestiaries as possible. One of my favorite types of examples for this bestiary would be powdered gas. Because they're player dependent to spawn, it's always good that you're able to AFK them as much as possible. And even with the sheer amounts of like ghost you need to max out dwarven bestiary, there's a chance you won't be able to max powder gas in that same time. So if you're ever in a situation where you're like doing homework or something like that where you're still at your computer, it's nice to AFK in the dwarven mines to get the gas kill. Another way of really passive bestiary would to be hitting each one of these mini bosses in the Crimson Isle while you're here doing something like fishing. Because you only need the hit participation on these mini bosses, there's no reason to not go out of your way, do 1,000,000 damage to each, get the reward, and you're able to do whatever else you want on the Crimson Isle. The final and best thing you could probably do for bestiary is swapping lobbies to lobby specific things that you would have to otherwise AFK for. The final thing is doing bestiaries that you're able to swap lobbies for. As a little example, let's say here I'm grinding pack spirits and I'm doing the bestiary here. If I need to swap lobbies, I would go somewhere like the Dragon's Den to see if there's an Endstone Protector. There's a few more I didn't mention, like Brood Mothers, Golden Ghouls, and most importantly Rain Drakes. It's always nice to do these while swapping lobbies as they're a little bonus and you don't have to go for them later. Another really good thing you can do is AFKing visitors while not even being at your PC. They'll spawn every 12 minutes without farming, and you can leave your PC for up to an hour and they'll still be going. I've done this a lot during my experience on Skyblock, and there's a reason why I have 8,000 visitors and not anywhere near close to max garden. Another really important thing you need to do is focus on mayors. You should always try to focus on things that have other perks that make things easier. This also applies for mayors like Paul, who speed up your dungeon runs and get you more cat XP over time. The main reason I mention this is a lot of the mayors we don't see that often. As an example, today, when looking at Marina, she hasn't been elected in 6 years, and even in this selection, she will still not be elected. So if you ever are trying to go for something like, let's say, Fishing 60 or whatever else, it's always good to prioritize these mayors as you don't know when you'll see them again. Party Finder is terrible in pretty much every aspect. There's slow runs, there are a lot of S runs, and most importantly, the downtime in between is god near awful. Being class average 50, I can tell you I've seen every part of Party Finder and none of it has been nice. Going for class average, there will be a lot of times where I'll be waiting up to 30 minutes in Party Finder just because there is no one online. And a lot of people during this downtime end up just sitting in the dungeon hub doing nothing. Now of course, if you're the leader of the party, you can't do much and that just sucks to suck, as whenever you leave the dungeon hub, it'll disband the party. But assuming you are a member of the party, there's no reason for you to not go out of your way, do some type of skill, or maybe do a bestiary. Pretty much anything that you don't have to swap gear to actually go do, as it is kind of a pain in the ass. Though out of everything, I think the main thing you should try to do is make a permanent party in dungeons. This way you're a little more organized, knowing when you're gonna actually play dungeons and you won't have to spend time switching gear to go to other skills while waiting for people. To finish off this video, I think the most important thing to talk about is to not fully focus on money while playing this game. Now, I'm not saying that grinding money is a bad thing, but especially when you're not in a dire need of money, there's no point of you doing something like gemstone mining or whatever else. People don't realize there's a lot of stuff in this game that has a lot of potential to make you a lot of money that isn't also just not giving you any progression. To name a few pointers, things like bestiary and dungeons give a lot more money than gemstone mining, whilst also giving you a ton of skyblock XP on the side. Being at a point of the game where I've pretty much done everything, I could tell you that there's a lot of things that I didn't even know made this much money. As a little example, when I was doing Ashfang, I was averaging around 40 to 50 mil an hour, depending on the party. When comparing this to gemstone mining, you probably won't make more than like maybe 30-35 mil an hour doing everything at max rates and good ping. Not to mention, a lot of people might think that ruby mining is their only way out, but in reality it really isn't. Now, though something like Ashfang might not be fully accessible, there's a lot of things that are. Something I like to mention is definitely Garden when people bring up the fact that all they do is gemstone mining. Now, even though Garden doesn't make as much money, not only is it more relaxing, but also gives a lot more skyblock XP than you could imagine. Looking at just a skill related task, we're able to see that you could get up to 1500 skyblock XP from Garden alone. The number isn't even including the bestiary, which will probably round it up to 17 levels. But next time you do end up doing something like ruby mining, do think to yourself, is there anything else in this game I could really do that not only would give me good money, but also skyblock XP? But yeah, that's about it for this video. Everything in this video that I mentioned, I use myself, and with the current state of I'm in, I'm around top 20 in skyblock XP, along with only 4,000 play hours. Now, this definitely ends up with the fact that I have a ton of game sense along with just playtime on other profiles, but yeah, that's about it. See ya.